Have you heard about the whole tone scale, but you're not really sure how to use it in your playing? Well, in today's lesson, I'm going to show you 4 amazing things that you can do with the whole tone scale. I'm going to show you how to get the dream sound effect with the scale, how to improvise with it, plus how to play some really cool runs down the piano. It's going to be a ton of fun. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, first I want to do a quick review on the whole tone scale. If you already know this scale, you can skip ahead in the video to learn the 4 tricks. So the whole tone scale is a very simple scale. It is a scale made up of whole steps. So if you start on C and go up a whole step to D, whole step to E, whole step to F sharp, G sharp, and A sharp, you have what's called the C whole tone scale. And it has a very cool sound. Now there's a second whole tone scale. If you go up a half step to the D flat and you play whole steps up the piano, you end up with the D flat whole tone scale. And it's the same formation. You're gonna play whole steps up the piano and you have this very cool sounding scale. Now there are only 2 whole tone scales at the piano, and that's because if you went up another half step to D and you played the whole tone scale starting on D, well guess what? It's the same scale as the C whole tone scale. So there are only 2 whole tone scales at the piano. I call them the C whole tone scale and the D flat whole tone scale. Now, quick note on fingering. If you're playing the C whole tone scale, I recommend you start thumb, index, thumb, and then use the rest of your fingers. So 2, 3, and 4, and then you'll come back to your thumb if you wanted to play the scale all the way up the piano. If you wanted to play this scale in your left hand, the fingering I recommend is to start on your thumb, and you're gonna go 2, 1, and then 4, ring finger, and play all the way up until you get back to your thumb, and then you could continue up the piano if you wanted to play it in multiple octaves. For the D flat whole tone scale fingering, I recommend that you start on your 2 finger, your index, go 3, and then go thumb to the F, and then go 2, 3, and then go thumb to the B, and then you're back on 2 for your D flat. If you want to practice it in your left hand, I recommend that you start on your 3rd finger on the D flat. You're going to come up to your thumb, and then 3rd finger on the G, and then you're going to go back to your 3rd finger on your D flat. All right, the last thing I want to say about the whole tone scale before I show you how to use it in your playing is that there are actually 2 augmented chords hidden in your whole tone scale. If you look at your first whole tone scale, the C whole tone scale, you might notice that you have a C augmented and you also have a D augmented. Isn't that cool? And so this is a great trick to helping you remember these scales. You can actually think of them as 2 augmented chords. Likewise, the D flat whole tone scale has 2 augmented chords hidden in the scale. You have a D flat augmented chord and you have an E flat augmented chord. All right, are you ready to use the whole tone scale in your playing? Well, before I teach you these 4 tricks, if you're enjoying the video, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more videos just like this. All right, trick number 1 is the dream sound effect. And this is a sound effect that's used in lots of films and television shows when it goes into like a dreamy sort of sequence. And it has this sound to it. Doesn't that sound cool? And we're just using the notes of the C whole tone scale. So how do you get this sound? Well, the first thing is to come way up high on the piano. You don't want to play a dream sound, you know, down here. It's going to sound a lot more realistic if you're going to be up here on the piano, okay? Now you can play any of the notes of the C whole tone scale and get this sound, okay? And basically what I'm doing, I'm playing like a C augmented chord, and I'm just playing the C whole tone scale up and down, and it creates a really nice sound. But the way I like to play the dream sound effect is to actually play thirds in the right hand. Okay? I'm just basically taking the C whole tone scale, and I'm playing thirds, and just kind of harmonizing the top note with a 3rd interval. You can also do the Triad dream effect, which sounds like this. Doesn't that sound cool? And for this, I'm basically taking chords, 3-note chords, which we call triads, and I'm playing the scale using 3-note chords. So I'm starting here, and I'm just bringing it up, right, like this, and then taking it down. Again, these are all 3-note chords. And then I come back up, See that? And then for this one, you got to kind of skip down like this, and then I come back up, and then I might finish finally on the E augmented. All right, technique number 2 that you can do with your whole tone scale is that you can use the whole tone scale to improvise over an augmented chord in your left hand. So check this out. If I'm playing a C augmented in my left hand, I can actually use the C whole tone scale to improvise over this chord, okay? And it sounds nice. Doesn't that sound really cool? And I'm just using these 6 notes from the whole tone scale. Now the amazing thing is that I can actually use the C whole tone scale over 6 different augmented chords, because there are actually 6 different augmented chords contained in the C whole tone scale. So I have a C augmented, I have a D augmented, so I could improvise over the D augmented with this scale. I have E augmented, I have the F sharp augmented, right? G sharp augmented, and then the B flat augmented. Similarly, you can use your D flat whole tone scale over your other 6 augmented chords. So if you play a D flat augmented, guess what? Right? You can use the D flat augmented scale, E flat augmented, right? F augmented, right? G augmented, right? A augmented, right? And then B augmented. All right, trick number 3 that you can use with your whole tone scale is that you can use it to improvise some very cool lines on a dominant 7 chord. Doesn't that sound cool? And so basically what I'm doing is I'm taking a C7 chord. This is a chord that you'll oftentimes use in a jazz chord progression. It oftentimes will end on like an F chord. And if you want to play a really cool scale on this C7 chord, you can actually use your C whole tone scale. And this scale hits some really cool colors of your C7 chord. You've got the root in there, you've got the 3rd and your 7th, but then you're also hitting the D, which we call the 9, the F sharp, which we call the flat 5 or the sharp 11, and then the A flat, which we call the sharp 5 or the flat 13. In fact, you can use your C whole tone scale on 6 different dominant 7 chords. So for example, let's say you played a dominant 7 chord on your D, and then you played the C whole tone scale, or you could think of it as starting on the D. Well, guess what? You're hitting some really cool colors on your D7 chord. Same thing with your E7, right? I'm gonna play the same scale in my right hand, and I hit some really nice colors, right? Same thing with F sharp. Doesn't that sound nice? G sharp. And then B flat. You can also do the same thing on your D flat whole tone scale. If you played this scale on your D flat 7 chord, guess what? You're gonna hit all of the same really cool colors. So you've got the root, you've got the 9, the 3rd, the sharp 11, really cool sound, the flat 13, and the 7, okay? So check this out. Doesn't that sound amazing? And once again, you can play your D flat whole tone scale over 6 different dominant 7 chords. So I said you could play it on the D flat 7. Well, you could put it on the E flat 7. You could put it on the F7. Okay, it's the same scale, I'm just starting on a different note. Doesn't that sound cool? A7, and then your B7. All right, before I teach you technique number 4, if you want to do a deep dive and you want to learn basically all of the scales that I like to use when I'm improvising on 7th chords, check out our course, Scales for Soloing on 7th Chords. You'll learn 15 of my favorite scales that I use on 7th chords and all the techniques that I like to use with these scales to create some really cool jazz lines. I'll put a link to that below. All right, the 4th and final technique I'm going to show you today with your whole tone scale is the whole tone run. And if you like guys like Oscar Peterson and you hear him play this really cool run down the piano, he's probably playing a whole tone run. It sounds something like this. Doesn't that sound cool? So what I'm doing is I'm starting really high on my whole tone scale. I like to use this position up here. So maybe like your pinky on C, and you basically come down the notes of the whole tone scale. So like this, 2 finger on the D, and then your 4th finger on the B flat, okay? So the fingering is really important. 2 on the D, 4 on the B flat, and then usually you're gonna resolve this chord to an F chord, so you might resolve it there. Now, a little trick to make it sound kind of like authentic stride piano is guys like Oscar, they'll harmonize the top note, so they might do something like where they grab 2 notes from the whole tone scale and then come up and then back down like this, okay? Or you could do it, you know, like that, but you want to harmonize the top note of your run. Another really cool run you can do with the whole tone scale sounds like this. Doesn't that sound cool? And so this run is actually very simple to play. We're playing a C7 chord, and what I'm doing is I'm basically playing these triads down the whole tone scale. You see this? So these are basically 3-note chords. I'm just skipping every other note from the whole tone scale to create these chords. And then what I'm doing is I'm just arpeggiating each chord. So, and then, see what I'm doing? I'm just arpeggiating the whole tone chords down the piano, and it has a pretty cool sound. By the way, if you want to learn more runs like this, check out our course, Jazz Intro and Outro Runs. You'll learn 6 amazing sounding runs that you can use at the beginning and ends of jazz tunes. I'll put a link to that below. Hey, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the lesson, please let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out pianowithjonny.com. We have over 1,000 step-by-step lessons for all playing levels where you'll learn your favorite songs, styles, and how to improvise at the piano. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.